In a world of melee influence and slam builds, making melee builds nowadays just feels boring and unimaginative. And if you're not using those loadouts, well, clear speed is going to be lower than the ones who are. In a game like Warframe, where killing enemies is paramount, clear speed often boils down to your TTK and your KPM. This metric dictates how efficiently you're dispatching your foes, which is crucial for maximizing rewards, managing mission objectives like life support in survival, and simply progressing through the content quickly. However, not all builds are created equal when it comes to KPM, leading to a distinction between high KPM and comfortable builds. You have weapon and Warframe builds that have massive AoE nukes that can clear entire rooms or corridors with minimal effort. On the other side of the spectrum, you have minimal setups, but are seen as comfortable builds, which on the other hand, prioritize ease of use, survivability, and a more relaxed gameplay experience over peak KPM. They might fall behind in sheer kill numbers, but offer a more forgiving and enjoyable playstyle for a broader player base. And then we have this build with Baruuk, where we're maximizing decently high KPM and is so comfortable to use. You have range damage, AoE, you're tanky, self-sustaining priming, and you're nuking. Introducing the Afflictions Blast Rook. Yeah, it's a weird title because I couldn't think of anything else. Maybe you guys in the comment section can think of one, and the one that gets the highest likes would get their comment pinned and added to the title of the video. But, you know, keep it civil. However, from the title alone, you can kind of tell what's going to be the general Baruuk synergy here. First, let's go over what melee Afflictions does, because this arcane will spike our damage and improve the clear speed even more. This arcane adds on 6 status procs to the current existing one. So for example, if you bleed enemies, you add on 6 bleed procs with 1 melee attack. And this application is only applied if the enemies are affected by a melee attack that lifts, knocks down, or ragdolls them. So you want to avoid status effects that apply hard crowd controls like Magus Lockdown, Electric Stuns, Heat Panic, and Freezing from the cold status effect, as those counter the effects of Afflictions and you won't gain any benefit from the arcane. However, what if I tell you Afflictions can still proc even though enemies are frozen, panicked, or even stunned from electric, and that only happens if you ragdoll the enemies. Now, for those who do not know, Baruuk's Desert Winds combos have mostly ragdoll hits, which can easily trigger melee Afflictions. And the best combo with the highest multiplier is the blocking combo, where you stand still, hold block, and melee, which is going to be used for the massive AoE clear. And for acolytes or high-value targets, I'll be using the slide attack combo, which is a multi-hit attack string that hits like a truck and used to one-shot those acolytes. And now, for our elemental damage combination, that's going to blow everything up with a chain reaction effect.
That sentence had too many syllables! Apologize! You don't want to hear about that, Vault Hunter! You want to hear about loot and pecs and explosions! I'm Torg, and I'm here to ask you one question and one question only. Explosions!
And that's surprisingly not going to be the electric element, but blast. A blast proc explodes with a delayed detonation, dealing a portion of the base damage. And at 10 stacks, the explosion is forced to end prematurely and will accumulate all of that damage into one massive explosion in a 5-meter radius, triggering a chain reaction with nearby enemies, as this explosion is also triggered when enemies die with the blast status effect. The unfortunate side about blast is that it does not scale with its own element, similar to gas, and it's not instantaneous like electric. That's why we're using Afflictions to expedite the stack buildup. And of course, to apply status effects, you need to have status chance. Well, this is where Baruuk's 4th ability, Augment, comes into play. Reactive Storm. This grants your Desert Wind increased status chance that scales with strength and converts the impact procs your Desert Wind deals to adapt to the enemy's damage type weakness. So if an enemy is weak to magnetic, like Corpus units, you will deal your own modded damage plus convert the impact procs to match the enemy's weakness. Moving on to Baruuk himself. The whole gimmick with Baruuk is that you need to deplete your restraint to activate your 4th ability. And to achieve that, you have to use your other abilities to deplete this meter. So maintaining your restraint at a lower gauge will allow you to be in your fourth ability indefinitely. The best ability that erodes the restraint meter the fastest is Lull, his second ability. And to properly use this tool to maximize the restraint erosion is to run negative duration. The only abilities that scale with duration are his first and second ability, and we're already removing the first ability, so we're left with the second. Lull is an area of effect skill that halts enemies and puts them to sleep, and when enemies are slept, you lose a portion of your restraint meter. However, you cannot recast this ability until the duration has run out. We reduce the duration to the point the effect doesn't last as long, but we can cast the ability in quick succession to expedite the erosion of your restraint meter. The other issue of this ability is that it does have line of sight problems, so this is why he kinda sucks in playing in groups. And to solve the issue of the line of sight, we're going to be using a grouping tool. And that grouping tool is Pull by Helminth. Pull just groups up enemies, and then I use Lull right then and there. And this vastly depletes my restraint meter. Once it's depleted to a point, I activate my fourth ability, and I just start blasting.
Hey guys, you get it? Because, you know, it's a blast build, so I start blasting. You get the joke? Guys, you get the joke?
Now that you've gotten the general gist on what you have to prioritize and expect, let's head on over to the build section. Alright, here we are in the build section. First things first, usually I would showcase what Archon Shards I'm using, but as you can see, there is no Archon Shards on this build. However, if you're planning to run any Archon Shards, the best one will be the purple Top Forge crit damage shards. If you don't know what those shards do, they increase your critical damage on your melee. However, if you have energy over 500, then that crit damage increase is then doubled. You can see on the Valkyr, the energy is over 500. And if we go back to Baruuk, his energy is over 500. Well over 500. Now, if you do not have purple Tau Forge shards, use the red ones. Red ones can also give you a crit damage increase, but it's not going to be as big as the purple ones. Now, for the Helminth, as I did state earlier, I'm using Pull, but I do recommend another Helminth if you're not too worried about grouping up enemies. And that other Helminth is going to be Silence. Silence is able to disrupt enemies. Not only does it disrupt enemies, it also disables their special abilities. This is going to be very useful if you get invaded by Violence. Violence silences you, but you can perform an Uno reverse. When he spawns in, pump Silence. Now this is going to be very important. This is the part that people don't really pay attention to. Have a look at my combo duration. It's at 20 seconds. How is this achieved? Well, I just have Dexterity Arcanes, both on my primary and secondary weapon. Taking a look at the primary weapon, I personally love to use Miter all the time if I'm doing these melee builds because it's great to pop Nullifier bubbles. You don't even need the weapon to be Incarnate. Dexterity Arcane gives you 7.5 seconds of combo duration, and this is the build that I'm using. Neutralizing Justice is going to be your best friend on the Miter to get rid of those Nullifier bubbles. Have a bunch of multi-shot, fire rate, and of course Amalgam Serration for the sprint speed. Terminal Velocity for the projectile flight speed, so your projectiles fly further. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if this is Incarnate or not. And then any secondary. Dexterity Arcane, and the Amalgam Barrel Diffusion for faster dodge rolls. Speaking about combo, we already know that Baruuk's wave attacks from his Serene Storm can build up combo, and the Dexterity Arcanes or even Naramon can help you maintain your combo. Did you know that when you're using your melee as Baruuk, you can parry and deflect, and as you're parrying and deflecting, that also helps you build up combo. So let me demonstrate this. Have a look at my combo counter at the bottom. I'm not hitting enemies, and I'm building up combo. I'm not taking any damage. I don't even have my third ability active, but I just have my melees out. As long as I'm facing the enemy, I'm deflecting and parrying and building up combo freely. Apparently, a lot of people did not know this. So this is one way to give you decent survivability. If I use my third ability, it'll of course disarm enemies. And I already have 12 times combo without even touching enemies. Just like that. And I'm only using this melee for its movement utilities. Evolution 2 with the sprint speed and slide. And Evolution 4 for the parkour velocity. Otherwise, the build does not matter. For the focus school, run whatever you want. If you want to keep things easier, then definitely go with Nerimon because of its power spike node. Melee combo decays rather than fully depleting. If you want a spike in your strength, definitely go with Madurai, but Zeneric is a great new player and overall broad focus school. Now, let's take a look at the Baruuk build. For the Arcanes, Arcane Fury for the melee base damage when you land a critical hit, and he's always critting, so this is very easy to proc. Arcane Strike for the melee attack speed. Do not let animations shine. You want to be attacking very fast. This reduces 18% of any enemy that has armor. Best mod in the game. Again, to reduce my duration, I'm running Fleeting Expertise and Transient Fortitude. Fleeting Expertise grants me efficiency, Transient grants me strength. And I'm going to be going pretty hard on the strength with Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage, Precision Intensify, and Augur Secrets. Precision Intensify affects my 4th ability, so I get a lot of damage and status chance. Augur Secrets is going to be pretty nice because it is an Augur mod, converting energy spent into shields. Don't care too much about the slight increase in strength. I highly recommend running range because then that will give you a bit more range on pull. At base range, it's only 12 meters. If you run Augur Reach, you get 16 meters. And on top of that, that also helps you out with Lull. But Lull already has a base 25 meter radius, so I didn't really see a benefit to that. Prime Flow here is to give me the large energy pool, and if you're using the purple shards, even more crit damage. Reactive Storm for his 4th ability, where it converts all the impact procs into the enemy's damage type weakness. On top of that, grants you the status chance. Then for survivability, I'll be running Adaptation, or if you want, Rolling Guard. Either one is fine. If you're doing base Steel Path, this is something everybody can run. It's very comfortable. You will gain 90% damage reduction with 9 daggers on Desolate Hands, and with Adaptation, that's multiplicative. And now moving on to the Desert Wind build. Melee Afflictions, you already know what it does. More base damage right here. Galvanized Elementalist, this will increase your status chance and increase your status damage. My status damage happens to be Blast. Reminder, the blast status damage does not scale off its own elemental damage mods. Only the initial blast damage hit will. So having a 60-60 is more than enough. You don't need to invest into the 90% mods. However, if you want higher initial damage, you can go with higher elemental damage. I put these two here just to make it easier for a lot of people. Otherwise, I would just do this. Go with heat and cold. I will still have blast, and it will be a larger elemental damage boost. Another thing is the faction damage mod. You do not need this. This, of course, will help you deal even more damage to the faction you're fighting against. However, a lot of people are not going to be doing this. Again, you can still go with the 60-60 combo I suggested earlier, and you can add another element to that. So again, up to you. Blood Rush for the crit chance, Galvanized Steel for the crit chance and crit damage, and of course your elemental combo. And if you do not want to add a 3rd element nor a faction damage mod, go with even more crit damage. You can do something like this. You type in blast right here. You can do the 60-60, or you can go with the 90% increase and add critical damage. If you want to see a bit more reds, go with Gladiator Might. But if you want better crit damage without the purple shards, then definitely go with Organ Shatter. This is one way to do it. And make sure to have Berserker Fury to increase your attack speed even more, because you do not want to let animations shine. So to demonstrate this, your 2nd ability, look how much restraint meter is reduced with just the 2nd ability. You can group them up. Press 2. Your Panzer is proccing viral all over these guys, so that's going to increase your damage done to them. Oh, they just exploded. Alright, this is a new batch of enemies. There you go, with barely any combo to increase my crit chance with Blood Rush, and they're already exploding. So this is how you'll go about with the Afflictions build. Now, best companion for this build, Panzer Vulpophyla. Viral Quills to spread the viral. Panzer Devolution if your cat's skill issues, but if you're melee attacking quite a lot, you can give your cat overshields. Very important. Duplex Bond so he splits up and spreads more viral. Tenacious Bond grants you even more crit damage if your companion has crit chance over 50%. Easily done, by the way. Martyr Symbiosis to stop you from skill issuing. The Tooth Synth mods. This will help you with some additional energy management if you're running on other setups that use equilibrium. On top of that, this helps you reload your weapon when it's holstered. So, for example, if you're shooting with this weapon, hitting the Nullifier, have a look at the bottom. We have 20 in the magazine. I don't need to reload. Just go back to my melee. Boom, back to 20. See, it passively reloads my magazine. That's what the synth set does. And of course, fetch. You gotta have this. Calculated redirection to give your cat even more shields. Better than actually running health on him. Then for the claws, easy, bite, crit chance, crit damage. You can see the crit chance is over 50%, so that triggers Tenacious Bond. How does Tenacious Bond look like? Right there. Crit damage. Shocking Claws converts all your elemental damage into electricity. And of course, we added radiation and magnetic. And because Baruuk can easily build up combo with his range attacks, I didn't really need to run Tandem Bond on my companion. And your Panzer is quite strong, by the way. These are level 230. Look what he's going to do to these guys. He's going to proc electricity, spread viral, and that viral is going to increase the damage the electricity does. That guy's dead. This is just the cat himself. See, we got radiation. These are big boys, and they're already dying just from the cat. And this is the explosive Baruuk build. And yeah, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. For more Warframe content, streams, and so much more, do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.